Hello everybody, this is Doc from 4FS Gaming, reporting in after a long and quite frankly overextended absence to bring you a quick look at World of Warships Legends. To get just a couple of quick things out of the way right at the start of this video, this is not going to be a comprehensive review or guide of any specific mechanics or even the game itself. It's just going to be a quick introduction into what you can expect from this game and what it's all about. And not that this information will be extremely pertinent to some of you, as maybe some of you haven't even heard of the PC version of World of Warships, but this game is actually not a straight port of that PC version. It's more like an adaptation of what's already available in the PC version, with some notable differences made, such as the fact that the ship tiers only go up to 7 instead of 10, and the lack of aircraft carriers. And finally, all of the footage for this video was recorded using a PlayStation 4 Pro, but mostly using the retroactive sharing and clip system the PlayStation 4 uses. So apart from the first clip, which was recorded on a capture card, all of the image quality is going to be quite lackluster. So I do apologize for that in advance, but I do assure you any future videos I will do will hopefully be recorded mostly or entirely with the capture card, so that way it'll actually look better. But I can assure you the game does run at 60 frames per second, it's very consistent, and it looks amazing when you actually have it running at 4K with HDR. But enough of all that, let's go on ahead and jump straight in to what this game is all about. World of Warships Legends, for convenience sake I'll just be calling Legends throughout this video and any other videos I make, is a 9 vs 9 online multiplayer game in which the goal is to simply win, regardless of what the win conditions are. These win conditions can be as simple as capturing the enemy base or destroying all of the enemy ships, or getting up to 1,000 points with 3 available capture points, while also trying to sink all the enemy ships. In fact, the main goal of this game really does just boil down to trying to sink as many enemy ships as possible. And you do have a lot of options to sink enemy ships from, with 3 distinct classes and 3 distinct nations to choose from, the classes being destroyers, cruisers, and battleships, and the nations being the IJN, which is the Japanese Navy, the USN, which is the United States Navy, and the Royal Navy, which is the British. Each ship type and nation have their own specific playstyles, weapon choices, and consumables to pick from, with differences even between classes of other nations, such as the fact that British destroyers don't have access to speed boost, but at later tiers they have access to a consumable called hydroacoustic search, which is mainly only available on cruisers. And some cruisers, such as a ship called the Iwaki for the Japanese Navy, have access to smokescreens, which is a typically destroyer consumable to have. In terms of core gameplay, the game has a far slower paced and tactical feel to it than other competitive multiplayer games. This boils down to the fact that you have to think about what you want to do and act in advance before the enemy does, so that way you can get an advantage. Playing a strictly reactionary playstyle isn't going to work because the map sizes are so big and your ships travel at a relatively slow speed compared to the map size that if you try to only react to what the enemy is doing, you'll be a couple steps behind. But that's quite enough of that. Let's just jump straight in to the ship types and classes that you will have at your disposal. The first class are destroyers, which you did see beforehand. Unfortunately, the footage won't quite line up properly because I just kind of, put this video together, stitching it together. But you have destroyers, which are my personal favorite class. They're the nimble, lightweight scrappers that pack a really big punch if you don't properly respect them on the battlefield. Like I said, they mostly have access to smoke screens and speed boosts, making them into very slippery opponents to catch and to face, but with that advantage also comes a few drawbacks, such as the fact that they do have the lowest health pools in the game, meaning that they can be killed the easiest if you manage to hit them, and they can be almost entirely shut down by good cruiser captains or opposing gunboat captains. And what I mean by gunboat is the fact that Japanese destroyers tend to focus more on torpedoes, so they don't do that well in direct gunfights with other ships, whereas American destroyers and to a lesser extent British destroyers can perform better when they are under direct gunfire. But that doesn't necessarily mean the Japanese destroyers are completely hopeless. They do still have guns, and they can definitely still bite back if you're not careful. Then you also have battleships. For those of you who value firepower, armor, and health points over all else, especially any semblance of subtlety. They have access to the biggest guns, which in turn means the highest amount of potential damage and penetration, the thickest armor, and they have a special consumable to heal back some of the damage they will inevitably receive. But all of that power does come at a pretty significant cost, as most of them are very slow in speed and very, very slow to maneuver. They are very easy to hit because of their size, and their guns are highly inconsistent with a long reload time. But they love nothing more than to get close in and brawl, although some battleships are definitely better at doing that than others, such as the American ships, especially the Arizona, which you saw earlier, one of my favorite ships, named after my home state. And finally, we have the cruisers, for those who prefer reliability, maneuverability, and consistency. They don't have as good of concealment as destroyers, but they're better than battleships. They don't have nearly as good of armor as battleships, but they have more than destroyers. They're good at basically everything you can put them to, and can be exceptional in a few areas. Their guns have good reload times and accuracy, they're for the most part quick and agile, and they have access to the hydroacoustic search consumable, which can help detect torpedoes and to a certain extent other ships. And the top-tier American cruiser has access to a consumable called radar, which can help detect any ship that is within its range, regardless of if they are in concealment or not. But of course, with all other ship classes, these also come with their drawbacks. They're not suited for direct conflict with battleships, as their citadels, which are basically the critical components such as machine spaces or magazines, are exposed and easily penetrated. Because of this, they need to be played carefully, because, again, they are not stealthy enough, like destroyers, to evade combat when they get caught out of position, and they don't have the health points or the armor that battleships have to fight their way out of a problem. They mostly need to be played either carefully, or with a high amount of finesse and skill to come out on top against overwhelming odds. But thankfully, cruisers do give you all the tools necessary to come out of any bad situation on top. Just don't rush ahead and pretend you're a battleship when you're one of them. And whatever you do, do not be the first ship spotted in a game, as that is a quick way to get absolutely deleted before you can have any real impact on a match. And there you have it. A very simple overview of what you can expect from Legends when you start playing. When you first start off, you'll only have access to the Tier 1 cruisers, which are, quite frankly, terrible, but you can expect that from a starting ship, and then you can work your way up from there. You'll get access to destroyers at Tier 2 and battleships at Tier 3 after working your way to the Tier 3 cruiser of a respective nation's tech tree. And if I were to recommend a line to go down for any aspiring captain of Legends, I would recommend going down the Japanese cruiser line first, as they have a couple of interesting attributes that make them a bit easier to play than the American cruisers, or, well, I would say the British cruisers, but theirs only go up to Tier 3 at the moment. Or if you want simplicity, I'd recommend any of the 3 battleship lines in the game, because they are relatively easy to learn, but you will have to learn along the way how they should be played. And whatever you do, if you are sailing around in a battleship, regardless of what tech tree it comes from, please, do not exclusively fire high explosive. My kind regards. You'll thank me later. But I do hope that you all have enjoyed this video, and again, I do apologize that it's kind of thrown together, but I did want to make a video letting you all know that I am still here making content. I've just been super slammed by work, but I hope that you will all enjoy any future content I make of this game. And hopefully we'll be going into more detail about certain classes or even specific ships in future videos. And if you have a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 4 Pro and you want to learn a little bit more about the game, I will be happy to help you out. Just send me a message over Discord, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. And again, I do hope that you have enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. This is Doc from 4FS Gaming, and I wish you all fair winds and flowing seas ahead.